The comments, opinions, and views shared during this program are of those individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of a Grand Lodge, concordant body, appendant body, Masonic Authority, or craftsmanonline.com. Welcome to the Craftsman Online Podcast, the only 5-star rated Masonic podcast endorsed by the Grand Lodge of New York.
This episode of the Craftsman Online Podcast is sponsored by Bricks Masons. From elegant Masonic rings that showcase your commitment to our craft to finely crafted regalia and apparel that honor your tradition, Bricks Masons delivers quality and craftsmanship that truly stands out. Shop now at bricksmasons.com and use promo code CRAFTSMAN to receive free shipping with your first order. Hello again, it's Brother Michael Arce, co-founder of craftsmanonline.com. You've joined us for an episode on Camp Turk and some of the unique Ukrainian guests that we had recently visit as we talk about brotherly love in Freemasonry. And welcome back, Right Worshipful Steven Adam Rubin, the Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of New York. Welcome back, Brother Rubin.
Thank you, Brother Mike.
And we're also joined by two special guests, Brothers Alton and Igal. Welcome to the Craftsman Online Podcast, brothers.
Hello, Brother Michael. Happy to be here.
Hello, brothers. Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here.
It's been some time since we've had Right Worshipful Rubin back on the podcast. The last time we talked was way back in March of 2021 on our second episode, when I think we had a total of 5 listeners at that time. Brother Rubin joined Right Worshipful Ron Seafried to discuss Masonic service. We are talking about Camp Turk this time around, and I'm just curious how you feel that it's become a summer destination for a lot of Freemasons and young people, thanks to the members of the Grand Lodge in New York. This is one of our hidden jewels, as you described, right, Brother Steve?
It is out, without a doubt, one of the hidden jewels, and it's hidden because not as many New York Masons know about it, and they really should know about it. This past July, we actually celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the Grand Lodge of the State of New York ownership of this property. It is this glorious private park area within the Adirondack Park in upstate New York, with a private lake, and it is just really just for 100 years. The trustees of the Masonic Poland Home have been lovingly preserving the grounds and allowing Master Masons, their families, and children, Masons or non-Masons, to enjoy the camp. Every summer, the trustees host a camp for children. And it's a wonderful camp.
I'm always jealous because I see the pictures of the events that happen there. The Grand Line has often visited there. Of course, the kids that are up there enjoying Camp Turk in the summertime and all the festivities. The young Freemasons that are a part of it, the DeMolay, all of the bodies that are drawn to the Adirondacks. It is just a wonderful part for families, maybe parents, grandparents. If you've got a young person in your house between 8 to 16 years old and you're looking for something for them to do for summer plans for 2024, we would suggest exploring Camp Turk. We'll make sure that the website to learn more about Camp Turk is included in the show notes for this podcast. What are some of the things that you know of that happen at Camp Turk, or maybe some of the experiences that you've had with young campers or young people that have been there that have left them a positive memory of being around Freemasons?
Well, it really is just a camp for kids. And so even though, the Masons own it and run it, I don't think that you really get much of a sense that it's anything other than just a wonderful camp in the Adirondacks. And it's remarkably economical. In fact, the wonderful thing is that knowing the backstory, the history of this camp, the Masonic Care community, which was started over 130 years ago. In fact, they're just celebrating that anniversary this past year. It started out as being a place for orphans. Masons take care of orphans and widows. And at a time in our nation when there was not any social network to help, families in distress, this was an orphanage, and we took care of children. And so those children had the blessing and the opportunity to attend this glorious camp in the Adirondacks. And I can't speak about all of the offerings 100 years ago, but I can tell you that now it's what you'd expect any sort of camp to offer, from boat rides to computer lessons, to archery, to hikes in the woods, to bonfires and s'mores, and just opportunity to just explore nature and explore your own self. And so I know that all the children have such a wonderful time. And so it was a really wonderful opportunity this past year to not only celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Camp Turk with our Grand Line and all of New York Masonry, but especially to invite some special guests that we hosted this past year.
Let's talk about that. We had some Ukrainian children that got a chance to visit Camp Turk as official visitors or guests of the Grand Lodge of New York. They sponsored a visit for this to happen. Brothers Alton and Igal, I'm sure you were very prominent in this all coming together. Can you tell us how this event took place?
One of the first things that I did and I had in my mind when I became the commercial master for Columbia Lodge was to find an avenue to reach out to Ukrainian brothers. And Brother Yigal came up with an idea as a project to basically Camp Turk for the Ukrainian children for our lodge. And we basically picked it up, that project. And he is from Odessa. He speaks the language. He reached out to the Grand Lodge of Ukraine for us. And then we started developing the project, grounds up, basically, from idea, one by one, day by day, step by step. We started, and then Brother Yigal introduced the idea our Deputy Grandmaster Steve Rubin, who basically took ownership and the lead of the project, and he started marching the troops, and we started doing the Zoom calls with the Ukrainian brothers, the Grandmaster Anatoly, and started basically going into idea of how we can do this, how this can happen, what are the children, basically one by one doing many Zoom calls to get the ball rolling.
It actually goes back to as Brother Alton indicated, he's the worship master of this wonderful lodge made up of brothers and Masons who are affiliated with Columbia University, and they're a diverse group of brothers. And Brother Alton has been having Masonic leaders from all over the world Zoom in and give lectures. And I was honored to be invited to the lodge for a festive board one Saturday afternoon, where the Grand Master of Ukraine was zooming in and giving talk about masonry in the Ukraine, as well as of course what is happening in the country at the time. And this is now a year ago. And after the Grand Master spoke, I spoke about what our Grand Lodge had already done in raising nearly $200,000 for Ukrainian humanitarian aid. And I also then spoke about the upcoming, at that time it was upcoming 100-year anniversary at Camp Turk. And then indeed, it was right at that moment, at the end of my remarks and as the conclusion of the festivities, Brother Yigal approached me and said, "What do you think about this project?" And I thereafter took it to our Grandmaster Kessler, and to the president of the trustees of the Hall and Home, who manage, run, and own, in a sense, all of our properties, including Camp Turk, right, which was Mike Morris. And to their credit, leadership matters. That they both, gave us green lights. And with that, these brothers put together a budget and started planning stages. And it was, in fact, just a labor of love. It was true labor, though. Planning on 12 children to get out of a country in war, under siege, well, it was complicated. We had one brother was initially supposed to accompany the children and be the chaperone. And because of his age and the war status of the country at that time, he was not permitted to leave the country. We had to identify a second brother to be the chaperone for the children through Brother Yigal and brothers in Ukrainian effort. This was and as Brother Yigal has used this term before, this was truly a worldwide, global Masonic effort to make this happen. The Grand Lodge of Ukraine, in conjunction with our Grand Lodge through Brother Yigal, we coordinated with the Grand Lodge of Poland, And the children, once they had their visas, their visa application, their visa interviews, they crossed the border and they were chaperoned by the Brothers of Poland and the Grand Lodge of Poland, and giving them, food and shelter, and kept 12 children occupied for the days before the interview, let alone waiting for the hopefully the positive outcome of the interview. And they chaperoned them to the plane to JFK for the following day. So what a remarkable effort on the part of all these international brothers. But if I just may add that I am just so grateful for the efforts of Worship Brother Alton and Brother Yigal, for the leadership and the heart they just demonstrated, and all of the brothers, including the families who stepped up in such remarkable ways. We actually came in under budget, and we came under budget because brothers along the way were hearing about this project and just stepping up, reaching out to their companies that they work for. Brother John Kennedy from Floral Park Lodge, he heard me make remarks at their lodge function, and reached out to us, and ultimately connected us with his company. And the children had a grand tour up top of the rock, and they were invited to go roller skating at the Rockefeller Center. He got them into the Freedom Tower. They hosted them for dinner. I mean, Trudy Wrights, the wife of Worship Brother Paul, admission to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Metropolitan Museum of History. So many brothers literally just even picked the children up, and we had to take the children from JFK, drive them 3.5 hours up to the MCC. Brothers volunteered their time, their cars, their minivans, and drove these children hundreds of miles away from their own families just so they could do the right thing for these children. And to the credit of the trustees, Right Worship Brother Keith Heinrich and all the trustees, they actually even had a doctor working that Sunday so they could all be evaluated, have all their physicals for the start of their camp. I mean, just so remarkable, brothers just stepping up and just demonstrating what it means to be a Master Mason. And before this podcast is done, I really want to just identify all of the brothers that did such wonderful work to make this project a reality.
Thank you, Right Worshipful. I want to turn to Brother Igala, because just hearing you talk about this, Brother Rubin, to me, it sounds like a Hollywood movie coming together. And the way that you're telling this story, you can do it so well in a few minutes, but I'm guessing this took months, if not almost a year. Tell us about the time commitment that you put in, Igal, and just the communication process going back and forth from America to that war-torn region.
First of all, I want to stress that without the support of the Deputy Grandmaster Steve Rubin and our Worshipful Master Altan, it would not be possible at all. And for all brothers, so I became master just a couple of months ago. For me, the support of all brothers in this project, it's a real demonstration. Now I understand what does it mean, a real craft and a real brotherhood. Here in our Grand Lodge, in our Columbia Lodge, and internationally. Because really we did a real craft, how to bring these children, all of them practically with a war trauma. One child, his apartment was destroyed by a Russian missile. Another child lost his close relative in the Ukrainian army in the Battle of Bakhmut. So they left Lviv, the western city close to the border with Poland, the same day as the Russian missiles attacked the city, and many houses in the central part was destroyed and people were killed. The same day, kids left Lviv toward the border with Poland. So this is really, I see that is our mission. It's a craft of our soul and our heart to help these children. These children, they had a unique experience. They learned about the hospitality of American brothers. They learned about the Freemasonry. What does it mean? Some of them, they are children of the brothers from Ukraine. And many brothers from Ukraine, they're in the army, in the Ukrainian army now, in the battlefield. They learn about the Demolay movement. And more than that, the Grand Master of Ukraine, he has an idea that this group of kids will be a core group for a future Demolay in Ukraine. Hopefully, we will continue this project. We will talk about that. But again, I would express my gratitude to everybody, to all brothers.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that question. I'm sure that deep down inside, you wished you could have brought more than just the 12 children that came over. How did you select them? And as you mentioned, I'm sure brothers hearing this now, there's going to be a big support from our brothers across the grand jurisdiction of New York to want to get behind and be a part of this. Do you have plans to do a summer 2024 trip?
Yeah, so this is a good question. It depends on the budget and the donations of our brothers. It's probably more a question to Deputy Grandmaster Brother Steve. From our end, we learned a lot. There were a lot of obstacles. That's the first experience. Definitely, if we will have opportunity to continue this project, it will be more smooth, more easy, and more cheap, maybe I would say.
I understand the concern about the money. I'm sure once we get the word out that we're going to have no problem collecting the funds. And I'm sure Brother Rubin is waiting to mention this, but it always comes down to the hands, the people that are going to be involved, the workers who are going to get in and deal with the grist of the getting things done and making it happen. And I think you're going to find more brothers also finding time and space in their heart to help out and want to be a part of this for next year. You've already provided that it's possible, and now we could make it bigger and larger to others.
This is one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in my over 26 years as being a Master Mason. And it was some of the most stressful. We were joking about after the children got through the metal detectors at the airport, and I received a text since I was out there with them. I started to breathe the first sign of relief for the first time in many weeks, because we were, responsible for these children. I mean, God forbid if anything would have happened to any child, but let alone while they were under our care. And that's really what is so remarkable, how everyone just stepped up. As I said, as you're probably gathering, some things were just a short notice, because of the first chaperone not being able to cross the Ukrainian border into Poland, we missed the first opportunity for the children to have their interview with the American consulate in Poland. And so everything got pushed back by a month. And so we were literally just scampering. So all of a sudden, when they were finally approved by the U.S. Embassy, that's when all of a sudden everything had to go. And we did not even have a plan at that point, because we're so worried about just focusing on getting them approval to come to the United States. We didn't have anything in place to actually pick up the children, to how do you transport 12 children, making sure they have food and water. That's really where all of the meetings with all the brothers, with Brother Alta, with Brother Yigal, and so many of the brothers just stepped up. I do want to add that in addition to the funding provided by the Brotherhood Fund and the trustees of the Masonic Hall and Home, that the 7th Manhattan District Charitable Corporation also contributed money, and their president, Dan Ekman, Robert's brother Dan Ekman, just really stepped up in a big way in taking leadership roles for organizing this, as well as taking one of the vehicles and transporting some of the children up and back to Camp Turk. So this did not happen because of one brother. This happened because Masonry kicked into all of our hearts, and we just stood up and made sure that this project was going to be a success. And so I'm so grateful to everyone's involvement.
So our 12 young sojourners, they're back home now in their native land. Have we kept contact with them? Have they shared pictures or stories of the account on their end of what this summer experience meant to them?
Absolutely. I got emails from their parents with a lot of warm words of thank you, that it was absolutely, that the kids became more mature after this experience. They learned a lot.
We received also the most kind, and I'm not even sharing it with everyone at this point, but we received the most kind email from the Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge in Ukraine on behalf of the Grand Master, just really thanking all of the Grand Lodge of New York for all that we did. And honestly, this whole project was just touching from start to finish. I remember seeing the first photograph of these children, because before you see a photograph of anyone, it's kind of just an idea in your mind. And the first time I saw a photograph of the children were when they were outside of the Polish consulate, or the American consulate in Poland, and they were just approved. Who were these children? They were just beautiful, average children, of course, with not so average experiences. And I just became very touched by seeing these human beings, and grateful that we could offer a small respite in their lives that they've been going through. The question was asked, will we be planning something like this in the future? I know that we'll be having some meetings with the Grand Master of New York, Grandmaster Kessler, and of course the Grand Master of Ukraine, and having these conversations. I am the Deputy Grand Master, and if the brethren will have me in May of 2024, I'm Grand Master, I will certainly be a proponent of this project. But I will also say this: lodges and Masons for decades sponsored children to go to Camp Turk. Many children are there on scholarship, and just because that's what Masons do. While I think it's absolutely wonderful what we did for the children of Ukraine, and I think that it's a project that is worth continuing, an important project worth continuing, I also would like to have a conversation with our New York brothers about making sure that we now are identifying other needy children in our communities, in our towns, in our cities, in our villages, in our state.
Hello, it's Brother Michael Arce for Bricks Masons. The Craftsman Online podcast is now sponsored by Bricks Masons. BricksMasons.com is my favorite destination for all of my Masonic shopping needs, whether it's apparel for myself or a cool gift idea for you. Make BrickMasons.com your online marketplace where tradition meets innovation. Want to turn your attention to BrickMasons.com, and this is a must-have for almost every Master Mason. Your very own decanter, the 2 whiskey tumbler glass set. This is yours for $85, and it comes just as advertised. Unfortunately, it's not full, but you can lend your Masonic bar a touch of elegance with a personalized decanter set, including 2 lowball glasses. You get the Masonic square and compasses, the letter G, and you can engrave your name and lodge number on this gift. Yes, personalize it so when brothers or guests are coming over to the house, you don't have to settle for that ordinary glass. You can make it a Masonic one. Visit BrickMasons.com and explore their extensive catalog. Also elevate your Masonic shopping experience with style and substance. I'll make sure to include the link for this item in the show notes for our podcast. Plus, podcast listeners, use promo code CRAFTSMAN at the checkout to enjoy free shipping with your first order. As someone who lived proudly in upstate New York, I know how special it is for young people that are living in the cities or more of the suburban areas. They get to come up and be in upstate and with the fresh air and the wide open spaces and experience all that, and just how much they love nature and being around that. And it's a wonderful thing that Masons can do. We hear a lot about brotherly love, our principal tenets of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And I had 2 more questions before I let you guys go this evening, but I wanted to get kind of your first reaction, Deputy Grandmaster, because I'm sure you've had throughout your Masonic career brothers come up and say, hey, I've got this crazy idea. And in your mind, you're thinking, okay, what do you have? But when they came up to you and said, hey, we want to do this for these kids in Ukraine, what went through your mind initially when you heard that?
I just thought, quite frankly, what a wonderful idea it was. I was at a lodge not too long ago, and I said that we have to turn off the autopilot, and we have to start, following our ideas and our dreams and making all these things happen. And quite frankly, everything positive that we want to do in our craft, in the Grand Lodge in New York in particular, we can do, so long as there are brothers of goodwill who want to step up and extend themselves and turn off the TV and not watch a ball game one night and do some good for their communities and for the world. To me, it was such a wonderful idea. And once again, to the Grand Master and to the president of the trustees, to their credit, it was a no-brainer. Immediately, the answer was yes. What a wonderful opportunity. And I'll add, and I want to just reiterate this, that this was made possible because of the generous donations of our brothers. We're very bad in masonry sometimes, and we do so much good work, and the Grandmaster talks about this a lot, that Masons make a difference. The fact is, we really do. We don't always talk about it. The Brotherhood Fund raises hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and does such wonderful work with all that money. And I think part of our problem is that we don't talk about it enough. So this was just a wonderful example. We can actually a tangible example of seeing. And before you get to the second question, I really want to just highlight and name all the wonderful brothers that stepped up in addition to the Grand Master and the presidents of the board. Trustees, Right Worshipful Keith Heinrich and Right Worshipful Brother Chris Huff, they stepped up in such a gigantic way. Of course, Brother Alton and his brother Albert, as it mentioned, Brother Dan Ekman, Brother Jay Munchie, Brother Alvin Cook, Brother Brother Yigal and his daughter, Brother Steven Shapiro, worship Brother Steven Shapiro, who actually arranged for another brother who's a judge to entertain the children at their courthouse. So, the trip to New York was such a whirlwind. The children saw, I think it was like 3 museums, the Freedom Tower, the Statue of Liberty from afar, top of the rock. They went to a courthouse, to a courtroom where a judge entertained them and spoke to them directly, a brother who happens to be a judge. And so all these brothers, Brother Lorenzo Caesar, who was my go-to brother, Right Worshipful Brother Peter Unfried, the Deputy Grand Marshal, Right Worshipful Brother Gustavo Turan, Deputy Grand Standard Bearer, Worship Brother James August, who's the judge who hosted the brothers, Brother John Kennedy, who once again I said earlier stepped up in such a gigantic way, Worship Brother Tommy Gatto, and Trudy Wright, who I mentioned earlier, is the wife of Paul Wrights, so instrumental. But you have to name Worship Brother Eldad Neymer, Brother Odebek Abidav, Brother Bledar Aslani, Brother Keith Chu, and who stepped up and drove the children up to Camp Turk, brought them back. Some brothers drove twice, just once again stepped up in a big way and left their children, kissed their wives goodbye, and literally were gone for 2 days as they transported these children. Masonry in action. I like to say that masonry is a verb. It's an action word, and these brothers demonstrated that by what they did. And I'm just so proud to be a brother with them.
Thank you, Right Worshipful. And I would echo that as well. Hearing this story and getting a chance to read more about it in the Empire State Magazine this year, it made my heart feel warm just knowing that there's brothers in New York that did this. And I want to thank you for sharing this story and introducing us to Brothers Alton and Yigal. And in true fashion, we have a few moments left. So I'll start with Brothers Alton and Yigal, and then Deputy Grand Master, I'll let you close out with the final remarks. But what advice would you have for a brother listening that wants to do something big like this, or sees a need somewhere in the world or even in their own community? What advice do you have for them to start planning and get active?
From my perspective, and I like doing global things in various countries. I mean, the beauty of our brotherhood is just so beautiful. I mean, we really wanted to do something great, and from our heart, we had the great intention, and we took it day by day, and we worked on it literally every day. We did some work on it every day. And when you do great things and you have good intentions, and our fraternity is about doing great work for the humanity, and brothers are highly capable, as Deputy Grandmaster is saying, they took their time off and to get things happen. I would basically take the idea and start working on it and bring the idea to other people's attention who can team up and show that, the great work, like Deputy Grandmaster said, in action, executing and making it happen.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Alton. Brother Yigal, what advice do you have for a brother listening to put these words into action for great ideas?
My advice would be to find the point of inspiration, because I was inspired by this idea, and I'm happy that our Deputy Grandmaster Steve Rubin was inspired by this idea, and our Worshipful Master Alton was inspired, and everybody. I see here that everybody were inspired, and it was transformed into real action, and this is our craft.
Perfect. Thank you, Worshipful. Right, Worshipful, we're going to let you close us out on this episode.
I'm inspired by so many of our brothers. Our brothers step up each and every day and do such good work in their own communities. And this just happens to be an example on a larger canvas. But nevertheless, every single day, and as the Grandmaster says, during the pandemic, sometimes you couldn't even you have to take notice of all the work that our brothers were doing when they were delivering food to first responders and to hospitals, and just stepping up in a big way. Brother Yigal said it, what inspires you? And then, of course, as a Master Mason, it's our obligation to take that inspiration and turn it into reality. Every brother who's a member of a lodge, has a built-in network of other brothers who are like-minded and want to do good. So find something that excites the brother's passion, come up with a good plan and formula, and implement. And I just want to thank you, Brother Michael. I'm so proud of the work that you've done. We've come a long way for Craftsman Online. I'm just very proud of all the brothers who have stepped up and continue to step up every day just to give back to the craft. And so well done for you, brother.
This has been the Craftsman Online podcast. I want to thank our guests this week, Worshipful Brothers Alton and Igal, and Right Worshipful Steven Adam Rubin, the Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of New York. My brothers, thank you all for coming on.
Thank you, Brother Michael.
Thank you, Brother Michael.
If you've enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more, you can tell Siri or Alexa to play the Craftsman Online podcast. We're available on all streaming platforms with new episodes every Monday morning. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.